Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. We have a real doozy going on today. Before we get into that, just so you know, we always end the show with someone who's not a creep, so you wind up not feeling as if the world is a total dumpster fire. Just putting that out there. Mm-hmm. Also letting you know you could follow us. We're always looking for suggestions for creeps, but especially for the non-creeps. We have a basic Facebook page, but we don't really check that. That's where people go to complain about our language. We use salty language in this program, so please understand.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
We actually are very interactive in our private Facebook group. You have to answer a few questions before you join the group, but we have a good time when we're in there. We talk about creeps. We also just talk about showbiz stuff and all kinds of things.
It's the best group on Facebook.
It certainly is. We are on Twitter at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
We're also on Threads. We're on Instagram, What a Creep Podcast. And we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. So send us your suggestions for creeps once again or non-creeps. Or if you would like some stickers, hit us up. We will send some stickers to you in the mail wherever on the planet of Earth you are. And Sonia, you want to give them the quick rundown about our website?
Yes, you can go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but we're afraid to ask. You shouldn't be afraid to ask, but just in case you are, everything is there. There are links to all of our past episodes, and in each of those little blog posts are show notes, because we source every single thing we do. We don't make this stuff up. It is, we want to give credit to the people that did the dirty work. So if you're looking for a deeper dive on any of our creeps, that's a great place to start. We also have a link to our Substack page if you want to sign up for our monthly newsletter. It's free. And we have a link to our merch shop where you could get t-shirts and tote bags and face masks and all kinds of good things. The shirts are super comfy. And there's more. We have a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. We have our first 8 seasons there. Lots of creepage to check out. I want to thank the following people: Ashley, Charlene, Brooke, Francis, Beverly, and JB.
Thank you.
All of you for signing up for Patreon. We really appreciate it. I'm sorry, somebody also had Twizzler in their name. Okay. We're fine with that.
Yeah, so I'm more of a Red Vines person, but that's cool. I'll take it.
Hey, we're all welcome here. We're all welcome here. All are welcome in the light. Children, if you cannot afford Patreon, we totally understand that. That's just one of the ways you can support us, or you can leave us a review. A nice one in the 5. We do laugh at our 1 and 2 star reviews. But I would like to thank Momo Chris, Carrie PFM, and Susan 1762. All of them gave us 5-star reviews in iTunes. We totally appreciate that.
Thank you.
We appreciate the feedback, y'all. Good and bad, actually.
Yes.
We do learn. We move forward.
Yes.
Sometimes. Anyway. I think that's all the good stuff that we start off with as we normally do. Sonia.
Yes.
You are leading the show this week.
I am.
Who's our creep?
So, do you ever watch Rick and Morty?
No. So that's going to be interesting.
Okay. Well, that's okay. You don't have to watch Rick and Morty. I do watch Rick and Morty. Actually, let's start with this. So we're going to talk about Justin Roiland. He, trigger warning, domestic violence, sexual assault, and grooming. Sources, because we source everything we do: Forbes, The Hollywood Reporter, The Mary Sue, NBC News, Rolling Stone, Variety, and of course, always, Wikipedia. Justin Roiland is a voice actor, an animator, a writer, a producer, director. He's best known as the co-creator of Rick and Morty, which is on Adult Swim. He also does the lead voices for those characters, Rick and Morty. I guess I could tell you a little bit about it. It's because it's a little hard to explain. It's Rick is kind of this asshole alcoholic grandpa, but he's also like a mad scientist. And then Morty is like his grandson, and they go on adventures all over the universe and in every timeline. It's a very strange show that is most of the time crude and funny and occasionally surprisingly moving and thoughtful. It's a very strange show. But it's a huge hit. Rick and Morty is a huge hit. It still is a huge hit. And it gave Justin Roiland a really big platform. And he used that platform to strike up conversations and develop relationships with young fans, including some who were underage. And of course, this is called grooming. He's also been credibly accused of domestic violence, and just last month, several people accused him of sexual assault. So let's talk about him, and we'll start like we usually do at the beginning. Mark Justin Roiland was born February 21st, 1980. Yeah, I feel old. He grew up in Manteca, California, which is about 75 miles east of San Francisco. It's between Modesto and Stockton. All I know about Manteca was they had water slides. Manteca,
that's right.
Water slides. That's all I know about it. He has a sister. Her name is Amy Roiland. She's a fashion designer. If her name sounds familiar, she got wrapped up in some TikTok drama last year where like she tried to get someone to do photography work for her. And she's like, I'll pay you an exposure. And everyone was like, LOL, like, you need to start paying us. And then she like went on a tirade, like, how dare you? You're like, I'll give you exposure. And people were like, no, pay me.
Yeah. But you can't pay your rent with exposure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Try it with your landlord sometime.
It doesn't work. So back to Justin Roiland, though. He was a kid who was always very much into like doing silly voices. He was very into animation, not surprisingly, big fan of Ren and Stimpy, like we all were back in the day. In the early 2000s, Roiland met up with community creator Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon was hosting a monthly short film competition called Channel 101, and Justin like wrote, directed, performed like several like shorts for this thing, including one called Two Girls, One Cup, the show. Sorry, House of Cosby's. And he also played Christopher Cross, the singer Christopher Cross, in a series called Yacht Rock, which I kind of want to watch. I'm not going to lie.
I was just going to say, you're a fan of Yacht Rock.
I am, so I would watch. No, you're probably thinking, Sonia, Dan Harmon, isn't he kind of a creep? Well, it turns out he is someone who did something creepy. He learned from it. He apologized to the victim. And seems to be leading a non-creepy life since then. I don't know if I should get into it, but I can. Do you think we should talk about that?
Just real quick.
Okay, so in 2018, we're talking like the height of Me Too. Dan Harmon, used to be like really active on Twitter. And he was tweeting out like, hey, I used to be like really fucked up. I was a huge dick, but like I'm working on being better, blah, blah, blah. And a woman named Megan Gans was like, you were a dick to me, basically. And he just was like, yes, I was. And he apologized to her. And she was like, I don't know if I forgive you quite yet. And then he had a podcast at the time called Harmontown. And he went on there and he detailed, like went into great detail about everything he did wrong. Like he made a move on her, she turned him down, and then he proceeded to just mistreat her and treat her like shit. She was like someone who worked for him, you know? So he was in a power of position and he used it and treated her like shit until she quit. Like he says, I treated her like garbage after she rejected my romantic advances, and he acknowledged that he had been a selfish baby and an awful boss. And she ultimately accepted his apology, and she said it was a, quote, masterclass and how to apologize.
Right. You admit what you've done, but you have to show like remorse,
Yeah.
but also like what you actually did versus
Right.
I'm just so much nicer now. Like you really do have to kind of let
Yes.
that person
And this
know
is
that you know what you did wrong.
yes, and this is what honestly we were all hoping that we were going to get from like a Louis C.K., right? Where he's like, I'm going to sit back and listen. I'm going to
LOL.
yeah, and then it was like what 6 months later he's on the road being a fucking dick and
I just like to masturbate. Tee-hee.
yeah, ugh. Like
Yeah.
by all accounts, it seems that Dan Harmon has actually learned something and has grown as a person, and good for him. So imagine how disappointed he is that he had partnered up with somebody like Justin Roiland. So let's go on. So in 2012, Adult Swim, which is on the Cartoon Network, approaches Dan Harmon, and Dan Harmon, of course, did Community, which is very big on well, let me rephrase that. It's a cult hit on NBC. It got a very avid following. And they were like, hey, do you want to do a cartoon for us? And he asks Justin Roiland to partner up with him. And they create Rick and Morty, which is based on one of Roiland's past shorts. He did a short back in the day based on Back to the Future, where like it's like Doc Brown and Marty McFly, and they go on these adventures. So Rick and Morty are very similar to that, except they're related in the cartoon. Anyway.
Okay.
So
and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, there are things in Rick and Morty that are fucking funny. Like I've laughed really, really hard watching Rick and Morty. There's also things in Rick and Morty where I'm like, oh, come on, that's childish, or that's stupid, or whatever. And then occasionally there's things where I was like, that's really thoughtful and surprisingly deep. And I like that. You know, I like a show that'll take a chance. So between like 2013 and 2022, Roiland was voicing those two lead characters. He served as a co-writer for a while, and he was an executive producer along with Dan Harmon on this show. And again, it's a huge hit. It has been nominated for 4 Emmys for Outstanding Animated Program. It's won twice. And Dan Harmon says that in the early days of the show, it was easy and fun. Like Dan Harmon would be writing things that were funny, and like Justin would write these, like do these drawings, and then they'd combine it, and they made this really funny show. And it was a huge success, great ratings. Critics loved it. And Dan Harmon was like, I want to make it even better. So he brought in some more writers, and some of them are like writers from his, from Community and things like that. And then at that point, like Roiland becomes less interested in the show. Like by season 3, he is described as surly, petulant, uncommunicative, grouchy. Like he always wished he was somewhere else. Like
for God's sake.
He reached a point where where the writers were like, it's better when he's not here. And he just stopped showing up. Like he wasn't writing. He wasn't doing any work on the show other than his voiceovers. He would come in just for his voiceovers. And then at a certain point, he started just doing the voiceovers from home. Like he wasn't coming in at all. When he did come in, he was super inappropriate. Like he came in one day with like a porn star, and he was like parading her around the office. And then he was like talking about threesomes that he likes to have with his then girlfriend, or he was like sending creepy texts to the female staff writers.
Oh, God.
Just like, again, like women just trying to like do their fucking job. And here comes Justin Roiland, like, look at my dick. It's like gross. So he's still, his name is on the show. He's doing the voiceover. People think he's doing the work, but he's not. And he starts his own gaming studio, and that gets pretty successful too. It's like he does some video games for like Adventure Time, which is another show that's on Adult Swim, and things with like Lego and Kart Racer and all these things that video game people care about. We were like,
it's all this is going over my head.
So
no, but keep going. Keep going.
So Rick and Morty is like super successful. Okay. Like it's got merchandise everywhere. It's being sold all over the world. It's generating like hundreds of millions of dollars for Adult Swim. And the show gets this like huge renewal of like 70 episodes, which is really big for an animated show. And it's worth millions. And it looks like, everyone's reporting it and they're like, hey, what a reward for Roiland for all of his hard work. But again, the truth is he has no real creative presence on the show at this point. He's just showing up and doing his voiceover work and being a dick. And he is basically he isn't on speaking terms with Dan Harmon by this point. Like they have had like some sort of argument. They only communicate through text. And even then it's like, do your voiceover work,
Bruh. Yeah. Not coming in.
Not coming in. And then Justin Roiland like puts his name on a couple of other shows. There's one called Solar Opposites and there's another one called Koala Man. I guess they're on Hulu. I have never watched these. And everyone on those shows as well are like, we've never met him. Like,
I don't know her.
I don't know her. Like, not even over Zoom. Like, he is like name only on those shows. And there's a reason I assume that they want everyone to know that because in January 2020, like shitty things start coming out about Justin Roiland. So he had a girlfriend. This is January 2020. He hit her. He beat her up. He did it to the point where like she had to go to the hospital. He physically prevented her from going to the hospital. He didn't let her leave their house for a while. And eventually she was able to get to the hospital. He wasn't charged until May 2020. I don't know why it took so long.
5 months?
Yes, 5 months. This poor woman. So he pled not guilty. This was October 2020.
Middle of COVID.
Yeah, he was charged with domestic battery and false imprisonment because, again, he prevented her from going to the hospital. Mm-hmm. She gets a restraining order and it's granted, all in October. The story nobody knows this until January 2023. Like, for 3 years, people sat on this. So the story comes out, and that's when, like, people start coming out of the woodwork, like, fuck this guy, he sucks. And they start sharing their stories. And if you go on social media, a ton of people are like screenshotting his online interactions, mainly with women and his like gross lewd shit that he says in his DMs. It's nasty. One of them is the former editor of Mad Magazine. Her name is Allie Gertz. She posted an exchange where he sent her like a bunch of like pornographic GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and all kinds of nasty propositions from him. It's just fucking gross. He messaged another woman. She was like, I'm underage. Like, and he's like, you should run away from home and go into sex slavery is what he says to her.
What a pig.
I know, he's so gross. He does like, and then other stuff. And we get like, oh, he was on a podcast as early as like 2011. And he's like, 100 years ago, it was totally normal to have sex with a girl who was 13. Maybe we're just too precious about it nowadays.
13?
13.
That's like an 8th grader.
Yes.
What an asshole.
I know, he's so gross. I guess like a 16-year-old fan had written into the podcast and he was demanding that she send like pictures of herself to make sure that she wasn't fat and gross. And if she is fat and gross, she's got 2 years to shape up, before she becomes legal age. Like, it's
y'all
just,
can't see this. I'm rolling my eyes like, oh, for God's sakes.
Fucking gross. So the charges finally come out. Like, everyone's like, oh shit, January 2023, the stories come out. March 2023, they're dropped. The charges are dropped because the DA's like, we can't convict beyond reasonable doubt. It sounds like maybe the woman wasn't going to testify. And that happens, right? Like, and another thing I probably should mention, Rick and Morty has a Very dedicated fan base. Now, not all Rick and Morty fans are shitty garbage people.
Not all Rick and Morty fans.
Yes.
Not all men, not all Rick and Morty fans.
Again, I like Rick and Morty too, but like there is a very vocal, like, you know, component to that. I'm trying to think of a similar show. I don't know, you know, just those kinds of dudes that are just like, why are you so offended by everything? And those chicks were probably asking for it. You know, that kind of attitude.
Fuck off.
Yeah, they can be really shitty. They think the main character, Rick, is someone to be looked up to and emulated, and that's not what Rick is supposed to be. Rick is actually an alcoholic, sad, shitty person. And they take that as like a hero. They're like, yeah, I'm awesome like Rick. And I was like, how sad for you. Like, it's icky. So I don't blame anybody for like not wanting to come out and say anything about him, because that fan base will come for you. Like, it's
No, we've actually not done shows.
Yes.
Because we're just like, it's the intense
Yes.
scrutiny that people get is just overwhelming.
Yes.
And yeah, it's very hard to, everybody goes, why don't they go to the cops? Even, you know, like with Russell Brand, somebody went to the hospital, like they went to a rape center and said, this is all what happened to me, but they're terrified of the reaction.
Yes.
I mean,
it sucks. You know, so
what an easy, I'm sorry, but what an easy life this guy fucking has. I would dream to be able to just voice a cartoon and just make money left and right. I would be the nicest person. I would be so easy to get along with. Are you kidding me?
The dude,
what is there to be angry about?
Yeah, you could be sleeping on a giant pile of money every night if you could just not be a garbage person. And it's like, nah, I'm going to be garbage.
I deserve more.
J.K. Rowling, the same thing, where I'm just like, where I'm like, bitch, all you had to do is be quiet. You making that sweet, sweet Harry Potter money. Like, and this is the same thing. Like, or Ali Wong has a whole routine about, I just want to do voice for like a piece of tofu in a Pixar movie and make money.
Me too.
Like, and I was like, girl, it's what we all want.
I want to be in The Incredibles and just be one of the, you know, less incredible Incredibles, but just like have my name on a figure that I get a little money from, little licensing. Yeah. I would be, that's the fucking dream as far as I'm concerned.
Seriously, Pixar, contact me. I'm down to do some work for your direct-to-video sequels. I'm here. I'll drive myself to your office.
I mean, Dan Harmon is a lot of things. We just talked about that. He's also very talented. Like, his shit's good.
It is good. There's a reason.
I mean, you can be proud of being a part. I mean, you can have that on your resume and feel good about it.
Yes.
Or your CV.
Yes, on your CV.
On your LinkedIn.
By the way, during COVID, Dan Harmon arranged like a table read of like one of the episodes of Community, and like he's like, fuck Chevy Chase, right? Because we did a whole episode on Chevy Chase, y'all, and like it was so like, you know, he got like people to fill in, and like fucking Pedro Pascal is one of the people that filled in, and I'm like, come on, he's delightful. And you know, Donald
Glover?
Yeah, Donald Glover's like still like working. They're going to do a whole movie now, apparently. Anyway, it's a whole thing, but we're not talking about him. We're going to talk about Justin Roiland, who, after the charges are dropped, released a statement that's like, you know, so thankful the case has been dismissed. You know, these are horrible lies that were reported about me based solely on the word of an embittered ex trying to bypass due process and have me canceled. When people talk about being canceled, red flag. Red flag. But I was like, sure, Jan, whatever. So just last month, so that would be September 2023, depending on when you're listening to this, multiple people now have come forward accusing him of sexual misconduct. NBC News, linked in the show notes, interviewed like 11 women and non-binary people who shared thousands of messages from Roiland from 2013 to 2022. 9 of those people.
Shit stays forever, y'all, by the way.
It does. And like the whole, like, you think your Snapchats disappear and stuff. They don't.
He played that music. What's that music I'm thinking of?
Your enthusiasm.
The Curb Your do.
Nope, they have them all. I don't know what these people are thinking. Like when you, whatever. So 9 of these people said they were. See, I'm sorry. Of those people, 3 said they were 16 when he started talking to them, and they all have pictures. They all have videos. They all have social media DMs. They have emails. They have plane tickets. They have Uber receipts, y'all. They literally have receipts from all of these things. Like, there's no like, well, I guess he didn't do it. No, he did it. So some of the things that he did, or he's being accused of doing, so one of his things was he would offer to fly these people to wherever he was.
Once again, you and I were talking off the air. John Kay from Ren and Stimpy.
Yes.
That was his move. Yeah.
Yes. So again, we have a whole episode about him as well. And
we heard from a lot of his victims too. Yeah.
That this was his thing, and he used his show to like meet people when they were younger and like really groom them. And some of them, well, one of his quote unquote girlfriends, she was a child. She was 14 or 15, like living with him. It was a whole thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
This woman was she was 20. She took him up on his offer. He met her on Tinder, like, you know, slid into her Tinder or whatever, and was like, I'm Justin Roiland from Rick and Morty, blah, blah, blah. He sexually assaulted her on their date. He forced her to perform oral sex on him after she said no. Another 19-year-old woman accepted his offer to be flown to Los Angeles, where she drank heavily. She's under 21. And Roiland and another woman had sex with her. Both of these women shared text messages with him from the following day where he apologizes to them for not getting consent.
Oh my God.
Yes. Right? Like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
So this just came out in September. So that was last month, y'all. If again, depending on when you're listening to this episode. So right now, there are no criminal charges filed against him. That doesn't mean there won't be, but there is a civil lawsuit. Yeah, or a civil lawsuit. He has resigned from his video game company. Adult Swim ended their partnership with him.
Good idea.
Rick and Morty are voiced by somebody else now, and from what I heard, you can't even tell the difference. Like, it seems
so that person's using pretty much the same voice, like mimicking,
yes.
or
Yes.
Wow.
Because they are very distinct.
I'm a mimic as well, by the way.
You are.
I am. Anybody out there looking?
Margot is absolutely a mimic. And well, they got two men who are spot on. Like, you can't tell the difference. And again, like, he hasn't been involved in like the writing or creating of the show for a while. So people who are like, I see a dip in quality since he left. I'm like, bitch, please. He left the show like fucking 4 seasons ago or something. So whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
They got new voices. Dan Harmon is the only credited showrunner at this point. Hulu has like also like gotten rid of him, so his name is not on Solar Opposites anymore, or Koala Man, which were his other shows. I've never seen those shows.
No, I can't comment on them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he actually lost his deal. He had a huge deal with Disney's 20th television animation studio. He lost that deal too. Again, this dude could have had so much fucking money.
Just don't rape people.
Yeah.
Don't be rapey.
Exactly.
Don't be rapey.
It seems like some bare minimum shit, but he couldn't do it.
You could get laid so easily. You don't have to put this much effort. I mean,
Yes.
I don't.
So he lost.
He's not ugly. He's cute.
Yeah, he lost his video game company. He got kicked off Rick and Morty, which again, huge hit, huge merchandising. Like, he could be so fucking rich. I mean, he's probably rich anyway.
I'm
but,
sure
like,
he's fine. By the way, I'm sure he's got plenty saved. I'm not gonna.
Yes, and then
bust
he lost
out crying
yeah,
over this
lost
asshole.
Hulu. He lost his Disney deal.
He lost it.
Yes,
By
he
his actions.
Lost it exactly. So
It wasn't just taken from him. He fucked it up.
yes,
Remember that.
It is, yeah. Nothing was like, he's not like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong and I'm being punished. He did something very, very wrong. He did something illegal and immoral and
fucked up.
Yeah. Have the day you deserve, Justin Roiland. So that's our creep. Justin Roiland.
Nice job, Sonia.
Thank you.
We get all these Hollywood creeps, and they've got a lot of the same. I'm surprised he didn't bring up massages. I'm surprised we didn't get.
I also was like wondering about that, where the like, I just wanted a back massage, and that.
Yeah, we talked about Harvey Weinstein our first season, and Julia Ormond just sued him. Did you hear about this?
No, good for her.
Okay. Julia Ormond, who was in, there's 2 movies that she did. There's Sabrina, which is like the remake, and then she's been at Knight's Tale, I believe.
Yes.
And then she was also in
First Night with Richard Gere.
First Night.
Yes.
Right. And then she was also in with Brad Pitt and Henry Thomas.
The Legends of the Fall.
Oh, what a horrible movie. I mean, when people want us to talk about our other show, I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to make the fun of it. I'm going to make super fucking fun of it. But
we should
anyway.
Because it has been requested like multiple times.
We'll definitely get to it. Trust me. But just know I will take a big poop over it. But anyway. But she's beautiful and she's a great actress. She was in The Staircase recently. She played the French documentarian that was okay. That guy I think we'll probably talk about one day too, just because that's such a wacko story. Anyway, when she got a deal with Miramax to produce her own movies, Miramax put her up in an apartment in New York City. She and Weinstein go out to dinner, have lots of drinks. She's French, by the way. I mean, like they just. They like their wine with their meals, which is fine to do, by the way. I do too.
Not French.
Raising my hand here, and I'm not French. But went back to her place. He's like, oh, let's talk at your place. And basically, he raped her. And she told her agents about it. And they advised that she not go to the police. That's what she's saying in her lawsuit.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying.
Yes.
This asshole's in jail in L.A. for shit he's done. And we've talked about this before. Getting a rape conviction is very, 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 very difficult. Yes. It doesn't happen. Okay.
It's very hard.
So that the man is in jail for like a good 20 years is going to fucking rot there.
Yeah.
Is something.
Yeah. They're like, he's going to die in prison. And I'm like, great. I'm like,
can only once? Can you just get him to like bring him back and then make him, I mean, give me a break. Anyway, she's suing because of that.
Good for her.
Anyway. But his whole move was he'd get him drunk and like, oh, just let me give you a massage, or can you just give me a massage and I'll just fall asleep and blah, 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 blah. And then, so he's a fucking terrible person. Okay. Sonia, we need a mood change. Please. We need to pivot and shift. So let's bring some Stardust into our non-creep today.
Okay.
As we said, we're always looking for suggestions for non-creeps. That always brightens my brain whenever I see, especially in our Facebook group, we mentioned once again. And somebody posted, have you ever talked about Mercury Stardust? She's a handyman, a trans handyman on TikTok. And I love handyman stuff. Like that's my jam.
Yeah.
She has 2.4 million followers. She's born December 8th, 1987. Once again, I feel really old. She lost her mother when her mother was in her 50s to stomach cancer, because fuck cancer. But she and her partner, so she's a trans woman and her partner is non-binary, and they're super happy. But she also is a provocative dancer. She does burlesque.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And she tours with that. She's like a person that does multiple things, which is what you got to do nowadays. It's a gig economy. Yeah. You got to like just wear multiple hats. So she's really into burlesque, but she's also really into being a home repair person. And she's really focused on renters. Those of us that, we have to call the landlord and we're exactly. Call the landlord. You hope that they give a shit, and you hope that they do something about it. And it's everything from caulking, your windows, to changing the toilet seat, to putting in, a new light switch, or, well, you should get an electrician for that. But you understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Just basic. But and I know, I heard about Jen Kirkman on another podcast that she does, where she says there's a company called Handyman. So if you want to hire someone, because women, sometimes bringing men into our home is a really kind of, you and I both know this is kind of a scary business,
Yes.
You have dogs. I've just got 2 cats. Like, I can't, it's a very unnerving.
I like to think Max would defend me, but
I had a guy that once was working in my apartment and showed up really late, and then was getting more and more hostile to me. Like, I could just feel it from him, and he scratched my wall and shit. And I was like, I just want to hire a woman. And if she's an asshole, she's an asshole. But I just don't need that weird tension.
Yes.
So anyway, she's called Mercury Stardust. That you could find her on TikTok. She also has a website. She's on a book tour right now that's doing amazing.
Awesome.
She's having so many people show up at her book signings. She's just, like I said, she's all about visibility.
I love this.
And she makes jokes like, I got an Adam's apple, and I'm a woman still. Fuck you. We're just talking about what's her nuts, J.K. Rowling. Yeah. So if you're looking for somebody who and I also think somebody, it can be very, I'm sure it's very exhausting as a woman to have to explain to men sometimes, even the nice guys in our lives,
yes,
the microaggressions that happen. She's somebody you could turn to if you have questions about trans rights and what do we do about teenagers, or what's a puberty block, whatever. Yeah. She talks about that shit in a way that you can understand.
That's
and
awesome.
If you're looking to gain more understanding, she's a great place to start. And you'll also learn how to change, your toilet seat or whatever you need to do, because you need to do this stuff. And a lot of times we're stuck.
Her. I will be following her because I need some help.
Yeah. And once, doing it yourself feels great. And her whole point is you are worth learning a new skill.
Yes.
Which I love that. Yes. She's super positive, and I just think she's amazing. And I think everybody should trans handyman Mercury Stardust. That's our not creep this week.
What a great one. Thank you, Margo.
Well, thank you to our listeners for giving that suggestion. Because I went down that rabbit hole, and then I've just been reading about her, and she's just fucking amazing. Anyway, Sonia.
Yes.
We need to let them know that if they like the sound of our voices, we also co-host a podcast called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. We are doing scary movies right now.
Yes, we are.
We did Aliens, and then what did we do?
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream
Warriors. And then what are we doing next, Sonia?
Whatever Happened to Baby Jane,
which I watched last night.
One. It's
fucking great.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're already getting
classic.
A lot of people commenting in our Facebook group about how they have this movie memorized. They can recite every line. There's people very excited for this conversation. I'm looking forward to this rewatch.
So that's happening next. If you have suggestions for us for creeps and also for non-creeps, all those places I mentioned at the top of the show, we love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one with your suggestions, or just be clever and do it on your own. Our email, once again, is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you like the show, please subscribe, leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. That would be amazing. We really appreciate that. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter, as long as that's a thing, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. What a Creep is going to be on Blue Sky soon. We've got some codes. We're going to be making that happen. And the TikTok. Where can people find you, Margo?
I'm at Brooklyn Margo for the TikTok, for the Twitter. For Threads and Instagram, I'm at Brooklyn Fit Chick. And for my site, it's brooklynfitchick.com. Okay, everybody. In the meantime, we got, Sonia, just a big hint for you. We got a big Aussie-sized creep next week. I've got one of the creepiest stories I've heard in my life. It's a true story.